In this lesson, we'll learn how to attach objects by modeling the wheel of our car. Alright, so in the last lesson we had built the rubber tire portion of the car. Now we're ready to build the actual rim or wheel of the car. So let's go to our front view and get started. Let's go ahead and go to our Create panel, Geometry, and we're going to use a tube to create the initial rim. So I'm going to left click and hold right here in the middle of my reference image. I'm going to go all the way out to the outside edge, and then I'm going to release and pull back into the inside edge. I'm going to go ahead and left click, and you'll notice that our height is still fluctuating, so I need to left click to create that. I'm going to go to around 13, maybe 15 or so. Now let's go ahead and go to our perspective view by hitting P on the keyboard, and let's grab our move tool and let's pull that to the inside of our wheel. So that's pretty close, but what I want to do is I want to make sure that this goes all the way across. So I'm going to go ahead and take my height, and I'm going to pull that up, and let's go to, I believe, to be about 24 or so. And I'm going to pull that back inside, and we might have to go a little bit larger than that. Let's go to 26. And I'll pull that out. And that's looking pretty good. I think 26 is going to do it for us. Might even go 26 and a half or 27. But I think that's good. Okay, so now I want to make sure that this is aligned with the wheel or the tire. So I'm going to go ahead and use my Align tool, and I'm going to select my wheel. And you'll see that it's moving in the X, Y, and Z position, and it's using the pivot points, but I want to use its centers and hit OK on that. Okay, so that way it's centered up, and we look good. So now we have our tube. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all the geometry in the middle because I want to put that in there myself. Now before we get going any further, I'm going to create a cylinder, and let's go ahead and pull that in, and there we go. And in my front view, I'm going to create it right here along the middle, just like I did before, and create the hub for this. Okay, so I'm just going to pull that over here, and let's go ahead and align that to the wheel. And let's do center to center, and OK. And then I'm going to pull this out, and looking in my left view, if I hit F3, I want to pull this out pretty close to the edge here. Maybe not even, but pretty close. Let's also go ahead and take our height. Let's pull that down just to give it a little bit of thickness. So let's do -4 on that one. And then on our radius, we'll also do 4. Okay, just to start out, so that way we can see exactly what we have here. All right, so let me push that up just a little bit more to the outside edge. So it looks like maybe 4.7 is going to be good. And now what we want to do is we want to take care of those segments in there. Okay, I want to take all those out. Now I need to do a little bit of planning here for my objects because I'm going to connect these together and actually bridge their polygons to create the spokes. So a little bit of planning goes into the overall amount of sides that go into the tube and also for the cylinder itself. So if we take a look at what we have in our reference image, it looks like I could be skipping 2 polygons in between this edge of the rim and this edge of that spoke. So skip 2, we have 1 polygon, skip 2, 1 polygon. So I already have this set up, and I know that I need 18 sides on my tube, and that's already set up here. Now for this to match up on my cylinder, I'm going to need 12 sides. So if we take a look at this and the difference, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spokes to this, and we're skipping 1, so we need to go down to 12. Okay, so we're going to take that down, and that should match up pretty well. Now let's hit F4 on our keyboard so that way we can see our wireframe on both of the objects just to start out. And I'm going to go to my front view by hitting F, and I just want to make sure that my polygons are lining up to one another. Now in this case, the polygons are pretty close, but I want to make sure that I just adjust that enough to make that work correctly. Now this looks really good. However, the tube here might need a little bit of an adjustment. So I'm going to take that back about 5 degrees, and that should get me really close. Okay, so now that we have those, let's make sure that we have our polygons set up. So I have 1 large polygon in the middle on my tube. So I'm going to go ahead and convert that to editable poly, And let's go to edge mode and select all of the edges on the inside. So I'm going to select one, hold shift, and select that edge. And that's going to select that ring. Let's create a segment by using the connect tool. And that's going to create one right down the center, but I need two segments in this case. Well, actually, let's just do one. Excuse me. And we'll use our slide, and we'll pull that toward the edge. Now, we may have to go to our top view by hitting T and then hit F3 to see this. And we want our new edge to match right up to the back side of that cylinder. So about 66 looks good. Let's hit OK on that. And we also need an edge right out here on the front, because I don't want my spokes to come all the way out to the front like that. I want a little bit of a gap there. So I'm going to select these edges, that ring, and let's use connect. And let's pull this to the other direction. And I'm going to go out to my top view just to see this and hit F3. And let's pull that down right out to the outside edge. So it looks like -80. And we'll hit OK. So now we have everything set up, everything is lined up, and now we need to attach the two objects together. So let's turn off edge mode, and let's go into attach on one of these objects, and then I'm going to select the cylinder. You'll see that they both become the same color, so they are now one single object. And now I need to bridge the spokes from one object to the next. So to get started with that, let's go to polygon mode. And looking at my reference image, it looks like it's going to be this polygon, and then we're going to skip every other one. Let's change the color to see that a little bit easier. So that way you know exactly which ones I'm selecting. So holding down Control, selecting every other polygon. There we go. And then now on this one, what we want to do is we want to select every two. Okay. So now that I look at that, I want to do every two polygons on this. Or I'm sorry, one polygon, and then we're going to skip two. Okay, so just doing a little bit of clarification there. So I'm going to select this one. We're going to skip two, go here, skip two. We're going to do that all the way around. So now I have all of those polygons selected. Let's use bridge, and that's going to create those spokes. So at this point, I'm just going to hit OK. And now what we want to do is we want to finish out the shaping of our rim. So let's create the little bevels that we see here. So I'm going to select this polygon right here, and I'm going to extrude, or use inset, I'm sorry. And actually, let's do bevel. Let's just extrude that out and then have it beveled out. So we're going to go out to maybe about 2 on that, and I'm going to hit OK and then inset that. And this is where that screw is going to set on this object. So I'm going to do 1, and then I'm going to extrude backwards in a negative direction. And there we go. So now I have that rim ready to go, but now what I need to do is I need to smooth this out. So to get started with this, let's apply our Turbo Smooth modifier. And let's try that one more time. Turbo Smooth. And you'll see, again, we have to start making those cuts. So let's turn on Isoline Display, take our iterations up to 2, and then I'm going to go to Editable Poly and Show End Result, and then use Swift Loop to create the tightness and bring that form back. So let's turn on edge mode so we can see our original cage, and let's make a cut right here on the outside of the rim, and then we're going to make 2 on the inside right here across the front of the face, just like so. And then we're going to make 1 cut right here along the edge of the spokes here, so just like so. Okay, and that's going to round out those spokes just to get started. And we're just going to do that on each one. Now, as you progress throughout this course, we're going to be taking some precautions as we're modeling, with the anticipation that we're going to be smoothing everything out. So you may see me later on in the course actually extruding a couple of times and creating these as we go, so that way we don't have to use the Swift Loop tool so much after this point. Okay, so that's been all smoothed out. Let's make sure that we go to the back side and do the same thing. So I'm going to do 2 edges right here, and then one across the top. And let's do one across the middle on both of these. So just on the other side of that. And now what we need to do is we need to take care of the overall hardness of our objects here. So I'm going to create a loop here and here, and I'm going to do that all the way around, okay, just on the inside of those spokes. Okay, we don't have to get real close to the edge. We do want a little bit of roundness for that. Okay, then we have one more, and there we go. So now if we turn off edge mode, we take a look at our object. We've got some nice spokes, nice and hard. Okay, we've got the tightness that we need. Now we need to work on the front there really quickly. So let's do edit swift loop, and I'm going to go right across the front, right here, and then also on the inside, kind of toward the bottom of that, and then out toward the front edge. Now sometimes if that swift loop tool doesn't quite get where you want it to go, you may have to kind of move the view around, okay, and orbit in a different direction just to kind of get that to position properly. All right, so now that we have that, and let me go ahead and select the proper material for that. Now that we have everything set up, we've got our wheel ready to go. In our next lesson, what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to model out the screw head that's going to kind of be the cap for this wheel. So I'll see you in the next lesson.